Folks, welcome to another episode of YWC Football Talk. It's always good to have the man to my right, Khari Thompson, on. He's rocking the beard, got the hair going. Before we start, though, I just want to send a special shout out to my friend Dan. He's going through a tough time right now. He's been on the podcast regularly, but he lost his mom a couple weeks ago, so I just wanted to get the chance just to send my best to him because I know he's always listening. So, Danny, we're here for you. We love you, and soon you'll be back on here talking Jets football. Khari, I wanted you on for a very, very long time because last time we talked was right before free agency, and now everything with the everything. Yeah, I know it's been a minute, and everything with. I know you're a Boston guy, but in your heart of hearts, you bear down all the time. I don't want to ask you about the moves because obviously that's easy and you can go into it, but do you think the expectation that's been coming in from the media heads of the NFL world has been too much for the Bears, or do you like it to where you think it can motivate them in such a tough NFC North?
Interesting question. First of all, shout out to Danny. I've been where you are. A couple of years ago, I lost my mom, and it's a process. Some days you're going to be feeling it, some days you won't. But, just stick with your friends, stick with what gives you joy and, just keep on keeping on, my man. We'll be thinking about you. Want to take that little detour, because I know how that is.
But he's one of the OGs. Sorry to cut you off. He's just one of the OGs of the show, and him and I talk all the time. So that's why I just wanted to do it as well.
Absolutely, my man. Hats off to you. I see with the Bears, it's interesting, and I'll try and keep it short. I think the expectations are, in reality, they're about where I think they should be, which is that this is a roster overall that should compete for the playoffs. I mean, they would have competed for the playoffs last year with with the Montez Sweat trade, especially because defensively they were a freaking mess early in the year, and they got better as time went on. But also the quarterback play wasn't good enough. And I'm a big fan of Justin Fields, and I'm hopeful that he's still going to go on and have a solid career in the NFL. I'm still hopeful for that. But early in the year the quarterback play wasn't that good either. And later on in the year when they had some opportunities to maybe sneak into the playoffs, and the quarterback play could have been better then. So essentially where they are right now is you have a situation that you've built around a rookie quarterback that is like, just come along at your pace, man. We don't need you to be Superman. We don't need you to do anything crazy. Just don't mess it up. Just do your job. Don't be a hero. And then, hey, given Caleb Williams' pedigree and what we think that he can be, if you're on some CJ Stroud level stuff and you are jumping into the league balling right away, then we can talk about changing those expectations when we can. But as of right now, I think that it is fine to have the Chicago Bears as like this could be / should be a fringe playoff team, especially if Caleb Williams is the number one overall pick. Number one overall picks don't usually come into the situation that Caleb Williams is coming into. We think about the Chicago Bears in sort of the past tense, like, there were quarterbacks go to die. And, last year, especially to start the year, they weren't that good. But what they became as the year went on, and then what they've subsequently built themselves into, right, where you don't just have DJ Moore now. Now you traded a 4th-round pick for Keenan Allen, who's still a very, very good player. And then you drafted Rome Odunze, number 9 overall, who, for my money, I mean, he might be, at least early on, he might be in the best situation out of any of those wide receivers, all things considered. So they could have a sneaky good team. I'm not over here trying to tell you they're going to go to a Super Bowl, but I think that they can make playoffs. So I think as it is right now, I think that those expectations aren't too unmanageable, and it should motivate them to make it happen.
I only asked that just because I remember hearing Rich Eisen like a few weeks ago on his radio show say, "Hey,
I know. I saw it.
Best case scenario is a Super Bowl appearance." Where I'm just like, let's taper down. Like for me, I have them like that like 8, 9, maybe 10 to 11 if they catch lightning in a bottle. That's where I have them. Mainly the 9 and 8, 10 and 7. That's where I think they are.
Yeah.
My big thing with them though is, look, obviously Patriots Bears, which we'll talk then, that's week 10. But week 11, 12, and 13, it's 3 straight NFC North games, including Thanksgiving Day in Detroit. That's going to be a big one. And then December is where I look at the schedule and I go, where it's at San Francisco, at Minnesota, versus the Lions, versus the Seahawks, which that's going to be I think that's a playoff eliminator game right there. And at Green Bay to close out the year. That's the kind of games where you're truly going to get tested, where it's your own division, but then it's the San Franciscos and the Seattles. Like, San Francisco still top of the league. I know everyone likes to clown on them for what happened in the Super Bowl, but they're still a well-rounded team. And then Seattle's a team, I was going to ask you this later on, but they're a team I'm not sleeping on, but they're a team where I'm like, they just missed out last year. This year with a new coach and a younger mind, who knows what could happen there with the Seahawks. But no, I really like what you said about the Bears, where you're like, fringe playoff team, just because when you look at your division as a whole, Minnesota, I'm still trying to figure out just because it's a rookie quarterback too, and we don't know what's going to happen. But Kevin O'Connell's going to put him in the best case scenario situation to win.
Yeah, I think Minnesota, if on paper, NFC North, I've got Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. And I think that with the Vikings, right, they had that, pretty substantial regression last year where it was like, some of it was injuries at the quarterback position, obviously, but I think there was also a bit of a regression before that where they had won so many of those one-score games the year before and, won the division and all that, but then they just weren't as good last year. And so I think that this is going to be an interesting test because it could well be Sam Darnold. I'm very curious to see how they play this because I could honestly see them playing Sam Darnold and Kevin O'Connell being like, I could get a little bit more out of Sam Darnold than what he's gotten at this point in his career. He's still a number 2 overall pick, from the past. He can still spin it. Like, he can still play. I count me as one of those people that was a lot lower on Sam Darnold coming out than I think a lot of other people were. I was just not feeling his feel for the game. But you know what? Say they feel that way. I feel like you couldn't argue with it. I feel like J.J. McCarthy is definitely like that it factor guy. Like, he might be really good in the future. I'm not feeling J.J. McCarthy, the thought of him right now. I mean, hey, you never know. He might be a lot better than I thought. But I think so. In the Bears case, I feel like that's a matchup that I feel like the Bears should win at least one game out of. Yeah. Tentatively, I feel like that kind of game you should be sweeping, that series you should be sweeping. But everybody else, I mean, look, the Lions are an interesting case because the Bears, even when the Lions have been the better team the last couple of years, aside from one really horrible game in Detroit, the Bears have played the Lions really well.
Did they beat them last year?
The last couple of years. Yeah, they beat them at home last year. And the year and and then the year before, they lost at home by a pretty resounding margin. But when the Bears were at home against the Lions, that was one of those Justin Fields games where he busted out. And he had 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns. That was in the middle of the Justin Fields supernova era where you're like, oh my God, he might really be something. But the problem was that the Bears couldn't stop anything defensively. So I feel like even when the Bears haven't been the better team, they've generally played that matchup hard. And again, they did break through last year and win a game. They should have really won both of them, but they didn't, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a competitive division.
It's really going to be because with the NFC as a whole, I feel like you have your not clear favorites, but you have your teams that you probably know are going to be competitive, like the Lions, the Packers, the Bears. The South also put the Buccaneers, Saints. I'm still trying to feel out, and the Falcons too. I know about Falcons, it's a new quarterback situation, all this stuff, but I need to see it before I buy in. And then the West is the West, where you're going to have 3 of the 4 teams. Even though I've been saying this all offseason, I don't think that they're going to be anything special, but I think Arizona is that team to take that leap like Chicago did last year, to where going into next offseason, everyone's kind of saying, hey, Cardinals are kind of that team that's starting to come back. I'm not here saying they're going to be anything good, but I think with a healthy Kyler and also too the best receiver he's arguably had, I think they can turn.
Yeah, I think
Potentially
that's
turn some
without a
heads.
doubt.
Or
That's
not turn
without a
heads.
doubt.
Put the league on notice where it's like, you know what? Hey, these red birds are ready to take off for next year.
I feel like it almost has to be that way
Yeah.
because if they don't turn it around next year, I mean, next year's quarterback class isn't necessarily looking that inspiring, but if it looks like the Cardinals are going to stay bad and Kyler doesn't elevate them, which I'm going to reserve judgment on Kyler. I think Kyler's a good enough quarterback to where I think that he could keep them in playoff contention if he plays for a whole season.
Full season removed from a torn ACL as well.
Yes, I think
against New England.
That's gonna be an interesting one. Yeah. Oh man, I watched that game. That was tough.
I was ready to lose. He's just running all over, and then his leg goes down, and I'm like, yeah, he popped it. Yeah, like as soon as it went down, I just knew what happened.
It's terrible to see. You never want to see people get lost for the season like that, especially not dynamic players like him. But I think that I feel like they need to show progress this year. Otherwise, I think the Cardinals are going to start looking at that Kyler Murray contract and start thinking, is this really what we want to be paying for right now? Are we getting the investment we need? And that's the thing is that might not even be like really Kyler Murray's fault. So I would like to see them get a little bit better this year. But I think that the way this division is starting to shake out, and especially like Aaron Donald's retired in Los Angeles, though, I mean, look, I think they've got a couple of good young players over there. I love me some Puka Nacua, but that's the 49ers division to lose right now, in my opinion. So I think with the South, on paper, it's the Falcons division to lose because literally the only thing stopping most of those teams from doing anything in the NFC South is a quarterback. Like, do you have a quarterback? And I think until this year, you would say Baker Mayfield was the best quarterback in the NFC South. Yeah, that ain't the case no more. I think it's very clearly Kirk Cousins. I mean, you could talk all you want about Kirk Cousins in prime time, and he's fine. He's good, but he's not great. He's the best quarterback in that division right now. And they put him in a situation where as long as that leg holds up, because obviously he's coming off of a blown Achilles, as long as that holds up, you could see him playing pretty well and that team kind of rising quickly to the top. We'll see about what Bryce Young has for us in year 2. I realize that he didn't play well last year from an objective standpoint, but I also think we're going to keep it real. They had nothing. That team had absolutely nothing going for it. And then honestly, it pissed me off the fact that they could have traded Brian Burns so much earlier for so much more of a return. And then they waited like that. That's hilariously bad.
That's an all-time bad trade. Great for the Giants, but all-time bad for the Panthers.
Absolutely murdering me how bad that is. But I think that. Oh my God, you're gonna raise my blood pressure again. But I mean, look, I'm gonna give Bryce Young his time because I think quarterbacks deserve that. Unless you've shown to be straight up unplayable and you have no talent promise whatsoever, and I'm willing to just be like, okay, you're not it. I'm not willing to say that with Bryce Young just yet. So, but I think that the Falcons, that's their division. Any division we haven't talked. We haven't talked about the NFC East. But if we're going to keep it real, look, there are 2 teams in that division worth caring about, and that is the Eagles and the Cowboys. I don't believe in the Cowboys. Never believe in the Cowboys. They are always going to let you down. So, Eagles, they're the one team in that division I think about. Though I will say this, I will be interested to see what the Washington Commanders do and Jaden Daniels, because that's gonna be the question a lot of people I think are gonna ask. Should it have been Jaden Daniels or Drake May for the New England Patriots? I personally think it ended up the best way that it could have, but we'll see.
So with the NFC South, if I had to rank the teams, like I think Carolina's going to win like 4 or 5, 4-13, 5-12. They'll be like, I think I could see them having a season like last year's Patriots, where they're in games, but just it goes the wrong way.
I mean,
I'm gonna put
four wins would be an improvement, right? Because how many did they? What did they win? 2? Yeah. Hey, double your win total.
Exactly. I'm going to go Buccaneers in third, just because I feel like there's going to be that Baker Mayfield come back down to earth kind of season, because new system, new offensive system in there with Dave Canales leaving, Liam Cohen from Kentucky coming in. Saints are that team that they just find a way. They'll find a way to get to 7-10 or 8-9, but then miss the playoffs in the last week of the season because they lost a stupid game in like week 14. And then I think I got to go Falcons in first place, but I feel like 10-7 or 11-6 is like their benchmark. I completely agree with you on the NFC East. The Giants are just a team that intrigues me just because of the whole Daniel Jones dynamic. How is he going to rebound? They finally got him a proper wide receiver one, even though his running back one's gone. God. But with running backs, I've been holding my tongue for this for too long. But there was a good running back signing today in the NFL. Little 4-year ticket, $36 million.
My God, listen. I tweeted it out. I've had a chance to watch this guy from the moment he showed up in camp.
Yes.
Ramondre Stevenson is a really good football player, y'all. I knew he was going to be a good player. I knew he was going to be a good player from the first time I started watching him play. And I will always remember this when I when I was at minicamp practice, OTAs and minicamp.
Yeah.
And it was like a pass pro drill. And again, this is no pads at this point, right? So they're not even really doing this for real, but it's a pass
shells and shorts.
And he messed up an assignment, and Ivan Fears just like bursts onto the field and is just destroying Ramondre Stevenson, just in front of everybody, humiliating this kid, and I'm just over here thinking to myself like, damn, bro, like you must really care about this guy and think he's going to be good. That's what they always tell you in football. Your coaches aren't ripping you a new, you know what, unless they think that you're going to be good and that they have those high expectations of you. And I'm just over here remembering that like kind of high, sort of, nasally voice of Josh McDaniels being like, damn it, Mondre, like during training camp, like what, I think he missed like a blocking assignment. So he did something wrong or he didn't get out fast enough on a swing route. And he's like, damn it, Mondre, and it's like, because they clearly expected so much from that guy. And I remember the play that it all turned was he wasn't doing a whole lot, but they finally went live for a session for a kind of tackling session. And he turned Miles Bryant into a chalk outline on a run up the middle, just a speed bump. And the whole crowd that was there was just like, oh, and like on the sidelines, like even the players were just like, and again, it's Miles Bryant, right? He's all like 5'8", 5'9", 180 pounds or whatever. But Miles Bryant's no punk. Like, let's be clear about it.
Yeah.
Like, he's no punk. He stick his nose in there. But the thump, like we're all the way up on the hill, probably again, like 100 feet away, or more. We heard that up there. And at that point, it was like Ramondre Stevenson. It was Mondre time, And then after that, I don't know if y'all remember, but in 2021, right? So that first preseason game, he rips off that like 90-yard touchdown
against Washington.
Preseason game one to like wrap it up. Speaking of which, like that's why like I was over here rolling my eyes when you're talking about, Daniel Jones finally got himself a wide receiver one. It's like Daniel Jones, my God, watching him that year, like up close, terrible player. My God, I can't stand watching him play quarterback.
I mean, me and one of my friends here did we created a little series because we happened to be recording during a couple of his primetime games just randomly. So we always do it now. Danny Dimes in primetime. So whenever he's in primetime, we always podcast. I always say the Giants just because they're always that like intriguing team because it's like they're the OG franchise. It's kind of like how the Bears always have those like eyes on them because of the market you're in, the historic of the franchise.
Yeah, it's like in basketball, right? Like people watch the Lakers whether the Lakers are actually any good or not because it's the Lakers.
Or hire a podcast to coach their team.
I mean, look, I am honestly sad because the Mind the Game podcast is really good content if you're a basketball nerd, and like I be using stuff from the Mind the Game podcast when I go play pickup. I'm just like, ooh, it's like I got a guy on the team, on my team that like they're just like straight up not guarding. It's like, let me go get that dribble handoff and take a shot. They'll just use him as a natural screen. It's like some stuff that like LeBron like drew up on paper, or like something like that. And I'm just like, ooh, let me do that. So I'm gonna miss that. I just look. You never know. I just feel like that ain't going to be a good idea. I feel like that's a bad idea. I feel like the moment Monty Williams, I know we're getting into basketball, we're veering off track here. I feel like as soon as Monty Williams became available, I felt like that should have been like, get Monty Williams in the building immediately, because that guy's been around the game forever. He's
collecting his bags. He's fine.
Oh yeah, he's not hurting for the money. Yeah, you don't need to work at all. You're getting paid $100 million to not coach certain teams, right? But I feel like if Monty Williams wanted to coach your team, that's a player's coach right there. That's the kind of guy that players go to bat for. They love the dude. I feel like he just got stuck in so many situations where you're just kind of like, look, I honestly, kudos to you for taking that job. I don't know what people expected you to do with all that, but, it is what it is.
That's exactly it. It's just I don't know what to think. Like, obviously, look, the NBA's done. Boston,
like the Pistons. The Pistons are an awful team. Like, what's a new coach? What's a new coach supposed to do with the Detroit Pistons?
Not a damn thing. It's just kind of hold your breath and count to 10. It's kind of like Dave Canales right now going into Carolina. Like, hey, well, we're not in a good position. Like, it's them and the Wizards. But then you have. I want to go back to New England for a second now, because I'll say this. For as bad as they were last year, and I know it's new regime and everyone likes to say, oh, it's just you're bringing back old guys. The fact that their culture setting in New England, I think, speaks volumes in the NFL. Now, I'm not here to say they're going to be good this year. I've already seen videos of people online being like, this team could go 0-17. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. No. I feel like everyone tries to figure that out. But with New England,
there's literally only ever been one team to go 0-16.
To Detroit and Cleveland. But even to the point, though, I'm looking.
I forgot about Cleveland. I was only thinking about Detroit. Yeah, oh my God, that was the DeShone Kizer year. And the sad thing is, I went to Notre Dame. I actually played pickup basketball with DeShone Kizer when I was a grad student at Notre Dame.
Wow.
He's a decent guy, but I mean, not a great situation as a young quarterback to come into.
And then Jason McCourty was on that team, and then Devin called Bill saying, hey, you want to go get him? And then half an hour later, Jason McCourty was a Patriot. Fun little story of the day.
Yep, and then got yourself a Super Bowl ring. So good for you, Jay.
Underrated plays in that Super Bowl too.
Not underrated to me, man. Because listen, as a former defensive back, I know that feeling of panic.
Yes.
When you're doing your thing, and then you see somebody else or
coming over the top.
You see somebody coming over the top, and you're just like, oh no. And it's like, I know, okay, we've prepared for this, but oh my God, that guy is so wide open. Am I going to get there in time? And you are just running your ass off to try to get there. Thank God for Jared Goff not seeing that, which is the funny thing, because I think McVay told him. McVay drew up that play for that specific reason. That guy's gonna be open, and Jared Goff saw him too late. But oh no, seriously, I could just imagine, right, when you just that feeling of seeing a guy running scot-free down the middle of the field, and you're just like, oh God. Even though they talked about it, right? They talked about the fact that play was probably going to happen. Here's what you do in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff. But that's why you talk about those situations. That's why you train. Also, got to say, other totally random story. There was a time where I was on WEEI and I was interviewing Devin, and it actually might have been the last time I interviewed Devin while I was in that position. And so I'm interviewing Devin, and then on the TV at WEEI, Jason's in the background wearing a Grinch costume.
Oh, I remember this.
On a NFL Network. And I'm just like, yo, Devin, turn on NFL Network right now. It's like, tell me, you see in this costume, and he's just like laughing on air. And it's just like, you know what? I appreciate you, man. Never take yourself too seriously. The McCourty brothers, though, like, they're really it. Those are grade A human beings.
They are. Actually, it's kind of funny you mentioned that story because last time you were on was when NFL, and it was announced that Good Morning Football is going off the air, but then now obviously they're rebranding and then coming back to California later before, I assume before the start of the season. I just wanted to go back to New England because they're in like that perfect position right now where it's like it can't get worse than last year. Anything's better. And also, too, they have a lot of cap money. Actually, the number one amount of cap money next year when there's going to be some wide receivers available. Like, hey, just play your cards right, see what happens, and go from there. So that's all I'll say. Like, I'm not saying New England's going to be good this year. My ceiling for them is like six to seven wins,
That makes sense.
I feel like they're going to win a couple. Like, I'm honest. I come on and say this right now. I think they win week 1 against Cincinnati because that's a game where Cincinnati's a team. You have Burrow coming off an injury. There's not a lot of continuity at the wide receivers. Hell, Chase and Burrow over in Paris Fashion Week right now, along with a bunch of other NFLers. And Burrow's coming off injury and all that stuff. So I'm just here to say, hey, if you want to take a chance week 1, go there. But there's one other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and it's not even football related. It's basketball related. So 2 things. One, it's involving the WNBA, and no, it's not about Caitlin Clark, and it's not about Angel Reese. So about a month ago, McGarvin and I were on here talking about people being horny online for Kay Adams on Twitter. I've seen the same thing happen now. If you are a grown man on Twitter, and I know she has suffered a very unfortunate injury, stop asking Cameron Brink for uppies. You are grown men. Stop it. Every time I see someone post her, it's like the Deuce and Jason photo where it's like me and her when she wins, and I'm like, stop it. You don't stop that. Like, is she a gorgeous woman? Yes. Is she 6'4"? Yes. Should you be asking her to pick you up in the air? No. That is a problem. No. That's something I've been wanting to get off my chest for a while, and I know you're a big WNBA guy, so that's why I had to say it.
That is, if you're familiar with the Kendrick Lamar universe right now.
Associated Press declared him the winner.
Yeah, exactly. It's official now. Like,
I saw it because
there's no argument. Once the AP says it, that's it. Okay, that is the governing body for determining elections and anything. Yeah. But if you're familiar with that universe, you're familiar with the song "Not Like Us." I got one piece of advice for you: don't be a fan. Don't be a fan. Okay, that's not a good thing. Nope. Basically, look, I think it is. I'm glad to see the WNBA get more eyes on it. I do not like a lot of the eyes that are on it, if that makes any sense, especially when it comes to. I understand this just kind of comes with the territory because sports fandom is still like this very male-dominated sort of world. But I've seen a lot of people say some real cringy stuff about WNBA players and Cameron Brink in particular, where it's like, do you think Cameron Brink's on the 3-on-3 team because she's like good at basketball? It's like, no, it's because she's hot. She's on IG. It's like Cameron Brink like leads the league in blocks. Like, are you like? That's how I know you don't watch WNBA. That's how I know you're not watching the games.
She was second overall and went to Stanford.
She's literally like she's the number 2 overall pick. She's again like the leading like shot blocker in the WNBA. She's a very good basketball player. Like sure, like maybe her popularity does have something to do with it, but don't sit up there and disrespect her. This is a damn good basketball player, And again, like I know this isn't necessarily about. I'm gonna not go into that part of the conversation because I'm gonna go to a place I don't want to go, right? But Angel Reese, 7 straight double-doubles. She damn near went for a 20-20 yesterday. Or actually, earlier today, like a 20-20 game, like points and rebounds. That's legendary stuff, right? And I mean, like anybody who puts up that kind of stat line in any kind of basketball game, you're like, yeah, they were cooking. And I think Caitlin Clark has started to come into her own a little bit. The Fever have started winning a little bit. And that's not that Caitlin Clark is carrying the team. That's more Aaliyah Boston. If you don't know about Aaliyah Boston, you should go look her up. Number 1 pick from last year's draft. But Caitlin Clark is starting to come up. Yeah. And I'm over here thinking to myself, good for her, right? This is good for Caitlin Clark. We like this. We like to see players play better. But don't come up in here trying to do the whole savior thing for Caitlin Clark. There have been people putting in work for this league for a long time, and just because you're only just now paying attention does not mean the league had no relevance before that. Okay, I've been watching this for a minute. I remember the Cynthia Cooper. I remember when the WNBA started, and Cynthia Cooper coming in with the Houston Rockets and basically being like female MJ, right? Like I think back to all that stuff, and again, I just watch the games. Okay, I understand people are coming in because they're excited about Caitlin Clark specifically, but I'm just saying watch the games, watch the league. There's a lot of stuff in here to like outside of Caitlin Clark. Don't just be like, I only care about Caitlin Clark. That's it. The rest of you don't matter. Because look, man, you're gonna be missing out on some other good stuff. That's how I'll leave it. I feel like that's a good place to leave that.
Yeah, it is. And also it's the Houston Comets, by the way. I've always kept up with the WNBA,
yeah, Houston Comets, which is like a great playoff of Houston Rockets, which is why I went ahead and did that. But yeah, Houston Comets. Cynthia Cooper, number 14, she was killing.
It's even like when San Antonio had the team Spurs, Silver Stars. Like I like it how it plays off of that, how kind of play off each other, not like the bulls in the sky. That's another story. But no, honestly, this was a blast getting to do this. We covered a lot of ground. We covered some basketball, covered some football, because folks, that's what the off season's for. Because as we say around here, as I say around here, with football at this time of the year, you're either in the news because you got hurt, you did something stupid, or you're on the Kansas City Chiefs, or you got paid. It's one of the three.
Yeah. It's literally never a good thing to be a Kansas City Chief in the offseason. Like, I just they are incapable of generating good press in the offseason. I've never seen anything like it.
It's weird though that it's a bunch of bench guys and no names besides Rasheed Rice that are getting into trouble. It's not like it's Chris Jones getting in trouble or Kelsey or Jerick McKinnon. It's not like it's one of those guys.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna. Yeah, it's like, but Harrison Butker. Well, Harrison Butker's a starter. He's a starting kicker, right? Oh, the starting kicker. But then it's like then you got people being like, why is the kicker talking? We don't want to hear you talk.
It's like, oh, hey, your receiver's doing great. Your receiver's getting into street racing and crashing and causing multi-car pileups in Dallas. You have players on animal abuse charges, which those people have a rightful place in hell. Then you have guys with weed or domestics. And then there's, oh, hey, and by the way, your kicker is a complete misogynist. So it's just this, they're literally covering all the ends of the spectrum right now. But here's what's going to happen. They're going to come back, win football games, and everyone's going to go to oh, hey, Kansas City Chiefs are really good at football. And, oh, we forgot about all the bad stuff that happened. And the next offseason is going to happen all again, regardless if they three-peat or not, which I want to wait and see on that just because it's never been done. And
I think that if they manage to do it, which I feel like the odds are obviously that they won't, but if they do it low key, I'm just like, Patrick Mahomes, I know you got a couple more Super Bowls to get there, but you might already be drawing level, man, because to sit up there and do that with this just absolute circus, and you're doing it in Kansas City too. But then again, it's not like Tom Brady never had to deal with controversy when he was in New England. So it just kind of comes with the territory. Man, they suspended that man for 4 games, and he came back and he was just like, fine, I'm gonna win the Super Bowl anyway. What's up?
And I'm gonna come back from 25 points down in that Super Bowl as well. One other point I want to make quickly though is, oh, by the way, out of all the off-field troubles, it's, oh, your star tight end just happened to murder someone and maybe other people. So that's just where it's just okay, they take the cream of the crop where it's not little minor offenses or felonies. It's, oh,
no, hey, we're not just talking about Like, we're not just talking about misogyny. That's child play. Like, did your
about
tight end murder someone? No.
Did he execution style murder someone in Attleboro, Massachusetts? No.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, we okay, yeah, we can't keep up this bit. I can't do it.
No, but it's fun too, though. That's the thing. That's the thing about this time of year. You can, like, if it goes off the rails during the regular season, I always try to reel it back in. But the off season, I'm just like, nah, I don't care.
Oh man, just look. I will still say though that there's nothing like NBA offseason petty, and like NBA offseason drama. But man, the NFL just randomly will come out with like, yeah, some of y'all are psychos.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, you're crazy people.
I feel like the craziness starts to, because like right now it's at the point where it's like, okay, let's get the training camp now that we know the dates. And then once training camp comes, it's like, it's not so much psychos. It's a mix of like psycho and on just people spewing craziness, where I'm like, week one. Like, one more point I want to make before we go is, and I know we've gone over time a bit, but New York and San Francisco play week one. If the Jets win, you are going to hear some complete lunacy. You are going to hear some batshit crazy takes coming out. You're going to hear it. They go into the Super Bowl.
I will not. I will watch.
I'll avoid ESPN, but I'm just saying that.
Yes, exactly. I will refuse to watch First Take. I mean, I already don't watch First Take, but it's like, I know I will actively refuse if I see Stephen A. Smith or Mike Greenberg's names come up on my social. I'm just be like, skip, because stuff's about to get weird.
I have many podcast style names for this, but that's the perfect one, and that's how we're ending, guys. This is episode number 298. I got one more episode, and then we're at 300. Can you guys believe it?
My goodness. Yo, did I jump in with you at your 200th?
You got on right before. You got right before 200. You've been along from like the 190s to now the 290s.
I am the harbinger of milestones, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm here for.
That's what he's here for, and he's not going away, folks. There's a rotation of people I love to bring on. Some come on more often than others, but you know what? Khari is always one of those guys in rotations because he's a guy I can count on always to have a good time and a good talk here on YWC Football Talk. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up here. For Khari Thompson, I'm Griff. Have a good night, everyone. And remember, training camp's only a little bit of ways away, but if you want, check out the